The reason I think there's been this increase in the last 15 years, it's primarily because we have driven it with a national tool called the National Survey of Student Engagement, and the motivation behind it is because all of the research that the best research about what matters to student learning and development during college in the United States shows that the amount of effort students put into their learning translates into higher outcomes, better outcomes, being more proficient, being better prepared for work, family, contributions to society. And so we've come to use the word engagement to describe time and energy students spend on the things that the research shows matters. These things include talking with their teachers about substantive matters inside and outside of class, the amount of time they spend preparing for class, reading, writing, working on problems with their peers that are instructor designed, the extent to which they make class presentations. We call this active and collaborative learning. And that also includes spending time working through problems with their peers inside, outside of class. And there are other dimensions to what we call student engagement. But the key here is, in order to improve the outcomes we're after, which is the purpose, of course, of this international conference, you have to know how students are spending their time. And if you don't have any clue as to whether students are investing time in the right ways, you don't know how to change the curriculum or what kinds of adjustments you might make to the teaching and learning process. So what we've done with the National Survey of Student Engagement, which is now being used in South Africa and Australia and Ireland, all throughout Canada as well as the United States, is to give institutions information about their students, how their students are spending their time, so that the college or university can actually identify areas that they could address to improve time and energy on these very important tasks. So there's a lot of pressure on institutions, not just in the U.S., but all over the world, to improve outcomes, including whether students in fact graduate, whether they earn the degree or diploma that they seek. And we also see strong correlations between engagement and graduation rates. So there's a lot of interest on the part of not just institutions but policymakers, because they want to have more people earn more degrees so that they can contribute in a more effective way to the economic productivity of the country as well as other kinds of desired societal outcomes. So that's essentially what's driven this, and it has been a surprising kind of evolution or revolution in a way. But I think there are a lot of reasons for that, and I've just given you a few. I should say the book was prompted by the very topic we've just been talking about, student engagement, and that is, what is it that institutions do to engage students, get them to spend more time and energy on the things that matter to their learning? And so we studied 20 what we call high-performing colleges and universities. These are all in the United States. And by high-performing, we meant they graduate more students than you would expect, given the resources that they have and the entering student characteristics, that is, how well prepared students are. And they also, we also, through these various measures of student engagement, found that students were more engaged than you would have expected, given all of the other attributes and characteristics of the institution. So we thought there would be something instructive when we went to visit these institutions. So we did, as we say in this business, case studies, extensive case studies of these 20 institutions, visiting them multiple times. And so after all of the information you collect, we came up with what we saw to be kind of 6 overarching conditions. And let me just mention, I won't mention all of them. Let me just mention maybe 3 of them. All of these institutions were very clear to students, even before they started university studies, what it was that students did there to be successful. We call this clearly marked pathways to student success. So they started these conversations before students enrolled The orientation activities that students participated in once they got to university were reinforced these messages, and all throughout, especially the first year but beyond, academic advisors, faculty, student support staff were all sending the same messages to students in terms of the kinds of behaviors that would be helpful to them. Another one of these 6 conditions was what we called an improvement oriented ethos. All of these institutions had created a campus culture where they knew that they were good, but they also knew that they could be better. That is, there was always somebody at the institution saying, are you sure we're doing this as well as we can? Are you sure we're providing the kind of support for this group of students that we should be providing at the highest level? And part of this improvement-oriented ethos was something we found very attractive, and we called it positive restlessness. And by that we mean this kind of uneasy sense that we know we could be doing. This was not a criticism of the institution. It was someone always saying we could be better, and let's try. And finally, I'll say one of the other of these 6 characteristics was almost everybody took their fair share of responsibility for trying to improve student outcomes, to support students. We called it the kind of shared responsibility for educational quality. So it wasn't just a group of people, it wasn't just the president or the provost, the senior academic officer, or a small group of faculty. The understanding that everybody here had an important role to play, including people who worked with students outside the class, people who tended to the grounds, the physical environment, physical plant people, the librarians. They all had this kind of common understanding that they were themselves very important to creating the kind of environment that would help students succeed. So those are 3 of the 6. There's a lot more to be said about what makes for a high-performing institution. But I should say, this book has been translated into Arabic. I was very surprised by this, and I don't know who motivated or who requested it or how many copies there are in Arabic. I just know that shortly after the first edition came out in 2005, it was translated. So we should find such a copy and make sure everybody gets one, don't you think?